and players smiling.
But Michael Jordan is not only the best basketball player, but he's the most exciting basketball player to ever play.
Tatum fires away, pumps it in. 51 for Jason Tatum.
The Big Three NBA Podcast.
Hello. Welcome to the Big Three NBA Podcast. I'm one of your co-hosts, Kwani Lunis, A. Blakely, Gary Washburn. Is it tri-host? Gary just gave me an eye. Does co-host technically not work?
Co-host is more than one, Kwani.
That's what I saw. He was rolling his eyes so early on.
He's rolling his eyes because you began talking about me. You pulled
I should have started with
you
Gary.
called your own number.
Gary Washburn and A. Blakely joined me today on this episode.
See, she pulled a Jalen Brunson on us, Gary. Me, my number. Me.
Before we get into the full shenanigans, though, I do want to remind you all, you've heard me say this time and time again, that you are listening to the Big Three NBA Podcast, which is part of the CLNS Media Network, which is where you can find our podcast, past and present. In addition, there are tons of other Celtics content, such as the Garden Report. They usually go live immediately after every Celtics game, home or away, win or lose. So if you're to the Boston Celtics and all that's happening with the team, the CLNS Media Network has you covered all year round. And of course, we are in the off season, and we will continue to talk about these Boston Celtics because there's never a shortage of things to talk about. So first, we'll start with Jaylen Brown, who recently, this past week actually, unveiled his 741 white noise sneakers. He had a pop-up shop right on Canal Street in Boston. My coworker, Malcolm Johnson, was there with an exclusive interview during the unveiling. He said all the right things. From what you guys saw, though, what did you think about it? I like the shoe for one, but what did you guys think of his interview?
Well, first of all, I need to reach out to Jalen and hit him up to see what can I do to
get a pair,
help promote his shoe.
So Amit,
preferably with a size 13, preferably with a size 13
of this, and I'm a size 6 in men's. So
okay. I just want to help
Gary,
him out.
Your size?
I'm not. Nope.
Is there a size for Grumpy?
He's the most true journalist. He will refuse to take the freebie.
Doing that.
I'm just trying to help Jalen out promote his
on my doorstep. I might show them on the podcast. I won't say I wear them, but I'll just say it.
No, the cool thing about Jalen is, well, first of all, he's in Boston, which other than playoff games this time of year, I don't know if Jalen has been in Boston this time of year if he didn't have games to play. So I think that there's and we can talk more about that. But to me, the biggest takeaway is that Jalen, again, he's here. He clearly is trying to send some very low key, but not really that low key vibes that he want to be here, because I think Jalen has seen many teammates leave here and things typically go bad for them. Like, other than Aaron Nesmith, has there been a Celtic that got traded from here where they actually walked into a better situation than the one they left in Boston? And I don't know if there has been. I don't know. And if you're Jalen, things are pretty good here. You got a pretty nice life. You made good money. You're in a team that's competing for a championship every year. And even if they take a step back, they take a step back to being a team that might get to the second round, which in the grand scheme of things is not a bad deal. You look at a cat like Donovan Mitchell, really good player. But, the next conference finals that he goes to will be the first conference finals that he gets to. And I don't even think he's gotten out of the first round. I don't believe. So understanding that you're in a great situation and try and plant seeds at a time when you know that Brad Stevens is looking at any and all options as far as how to retinker this roster with Tatum out for the year. You want to make sure that Brad and anyone else in the Celtics ecosystem understands that he's good being where he's at.
I don't think Brad's going to be like, wow, Jalen, you did your shoe promotion here. I'll keep you and will not trade you. Like,
That's such a cow response, but keep going, Gary.
I think that it's good for Jalen to show his comfort in Boston and to show that he views this as maybe not a first home, but a second home and a place that he could settle and he's comfortable, and that the people appreciate his efforts and his contributions to the Celtics and the community.
And let's be real, it's still a big market for sneakers.
Yes. And then for him to, I'm sure he gave out, some sneakers and had promotions, and, I think that's good. I don't think he's doing this to make a whole bunch of money. I think he's doing this to kind of put his brand out there and to show that athletes can produce their own type of shoe. It doesn't have to be one of the major companies. They can do this on their own and with the right support. And I just think entrepreneurship is something that we should preach amongst our athletes because, quite honestly, we saw the 30 for 30s. There's too many athletes out here who have lost their money, invested it in poor investments, went into bad type of investments in clubs and restaurants and things that might not have been as fruitful. And they have to find a positive way and fruitful way and profitable way to invest their money to where they can have, plenty of money when they're retired. And and now these guys, quite honestly, are making generational wealth. This is not the 20 years ago. They're making enough money for their kids and their kids' kids to live on. So that's important. But I thought it was a good situation, a good positive thing for Jalen to do on a Saturday, to reach out to the community and to show his new shoe. And for people who are looking to buy an inexpensive shoe, I think it's about $70 for kids or whatever, which I think, anything under $100, I haven't bought shoes for kids in a long time. But, apparently anything under $100 is a good deal. I don't know about you, Sherrod, but my mama wouldn't have spent $70.
Not my parents.
My mama would not have spent $70 for a pair of shoes. She would have spent it for 6 pair of shoes, right?
That was my hustle. I hustled to make money so I could get me sneakers. I had to get my red and black suede Pumas, so I had to sell candy and stuff to get money to do that.
When you went to and growing up, there was a store. It's kind of like a Walmart now. It's called Zodi's.
That's a West Coast thing. I've heard of it though.
And Zodi's used to sell the shoes that you could hang on the little thing, like you could hang them on, and they were attached by like a little plastic ties, so you just pull them off and you just put them in the basket. Like they had no
trash, Kwani. Let me just get to the chase. They were trash.
They had no box. They had no box. They ain't come in no box. It wasn't fresh. It was together. The two shoes were connected by. You just cut the plastic and then you rock and roll with them, and those things were like, your mama buy you 3 pair of those because they was on sale, 3 for $30.
They was always on sale, Kwani. Always on sale. Different
colors, so you was good for the year. 3, player blue, player black, and a player red, and a player red. And you best not complain, right? So, and that was 3 for $30. That was $10 each. When your
I feel like we get a Gary Washburn testimonial here, Kwani.
Like, please, mama, don't buy me them shoes. I'm gonna get made fun of in school. What are you talking about? Because Sherrod knows this. And I'm gonna educate our younger people.
Oh Lord!
So they used to have Adidas this is what they stole at Zodi's. They stole Nikes with the inverse with the swoop, but it was inverse. Yes.
And they had the 4-stripe Adidas.
And the 4-stripe Adidas.
Wait, was the Jordan the bigger jump man?
No, that's before Jordan.
The Swish.
But they had the 4-stripe. They had the 4-stripe Adidas. The 4-stripe Adidas. And more education here.
You could take one of those stripes off. Just saying, if you wanted to.
That's or people would color over them, color white over them, right? Because they had the 4-stripe Adidas and they had the Nikes with the reverse swoosh. And your mama was like, "Well, that look like the ones I see the basketball players wear. Ain't that it?"
Well, don't you know you look in the mirror? It's just like a Nike. Look in the mirror. Look at it.
Ain't that what Magic Johnson and Harry Bird? Ain't that what they wear? Like, no, mama, that's not what they wear. Please don't buy me the reverse swoosh Nikes.
Oh my gosh!
Could you imagine the kids making fun of you the next day with the reverse swoosh or the 4-stripe Adidas? There was a shoe called. There was a shoe store, and I don't know if this made East Coast. It was called Kenny's.
Yeah, Kenny's was East Coast. Okay. That's where you got your 4-stripe Adidas from.
And they were called Kenny MBAs, right? They were called the NBA before the NBA was the NBA, affiliated with Kenny's and sold shoes. They were called the Kenny MBAs, right? But they weren't on the level of Nike, Adidas, especially Converse. Converse, if you had a pair of Converse, you was a man.
Yep.
or the woman. You couldn't nobody say nothing. It was a Converse.
Nobody in my hood had Converse.
But the 4-stripe Adidas was called Kenny MBAs.
We had lots of 4-stripe Adidas.
Yes, you saw that a lot because Adidas were not cheap. And your mama, if it was a special day, your mother would buy you the Kenny MBAs. Yep. And then, so when kids used to come to school with the fake and the knockover shoes, they used to call them bubble gums. That's this LA thing. They used to call them bubble gums. So if you came with the ones with the reverse stripe Nike or the 4-stripe Adidas, oh, you got the bubble gums on. Okay. It was not complimentary to wear bubble gums. That would make you cry. Someone say you got some bubble gums on. So when it was Kenny MBAs, people would like call them National Bubblegum Association.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's fire.
Like that wasn't
clever.
And I had a pair of Kenny MBAs without question. Wow. Before I got Adidas, before I got Nikes, I had a pair of Kenny MBAs, and they was not $70. So props to Jalen for selling a cool looking shoe that's moderately priced, because I know my mama would have been happy with that. Now my mama wouldn't have spent $70 on it.
I feel like Jalen can say the similar thing about Michelle Brown, because
like my mother would not have spent $70 on no pair of shoes. But like Bill Cosby said, unless you're on the stage with your 4 brothers, like unless you Michael Jackson something, like the only time you getting something like that is if you are you going on American Idol or something? You look good then. Are you about to perform for somebody? No, you just wearing those to run in and get dirty. Oh yeah, then no, mama ain't spending $70. So in any event, props to Jalen for selling moderately priced, inexpensive shoes for kids. That is a big deal.
And for Gary to go down memory lane.
Look, we got a history lesson, and now we have context.
Kenny MBAs.
The 4-stripe Adidas. I had to find those. I had to put a pair of those.
Bring it.
Yeah, hold on.
You tell me Gary got like a throwback version in Bad Boys.
Somewhere in the closet.
Yeah, hold up. I'm going
to me go to the closet to get these Kennies.
Right.
Well, there's a picture.
Oh, he got a picture?
Gary always got a picture.
There's a picture. I have to put them. Oh, here we go.
We'll send that to Ahmed too to maybe overlay while you're talking about it, because that's needed. Well, we're on the subject of Jaylen Brown. We're thinking about leadership next season. Essentially, this will be his team. Obviously, him being in Boston, Sherrod, you make a really good point of him just solidifying that he is here, even if it is for his own personal business reasons. But how do you think this all plays out when we think about next season? And what are some of the benefits for him being hopefully the leader in the room?
Well, it's an opportunity for him to finally get an opportunity to do what he feels he should have been doing before now. I mean, this is the number 3 pick in his respective draft class. And typically those guys taken that high at some point, sooner rather than later, become the face of the franchise, to become the go-to guy. And Jalen, he has not really had that opportunity per se until this upcoming season, where he will be the focal point of what they do at both ends of the floor. And the biggest thing that he has to worry about, I think more than anything else, is just being Jalen, being consistent, being a top-tier player, night in, night out basis, no nights off, no opportunities to just kind of kick back and let your homeboy carry things for a bit, and you just kind of fill in here and there. No, you got to be that guy. And I think that's going to be an adjustment for him. And to me, it's not a question of whether he has the ability to be that guy. It's can he be that guy consistently? We've seen him elevate his game to the highest of levels in some of the most important moments in not just the Celtics season, but in his career. I mean, this is a guy that was NBA Finals MVP, Eastern Conference Finals MVP, and there just aren't a lot of guys who are traditionally in that number 2 role on their respective teams who have those type of accomplishments. So you obviously have to give him a lot of credit for having the ability, the skills, and all that stuff to be the man. But now, can you be the man night in, night out? It took Jason Tatum it took him a few years to where he got to the point where he's comfortable, confident, and consistent in that role. It remains to be seen whether Jaylen Brown can follow suit this upcoming season.
I think Jalen shouldn't take too much responsibility and too much on his shoulders. I think he'll be fine. I think that they'll surround him with a team whether it be new acquisitions or guys coming up, or the Peyton Pritchards and Baylor Shiremans, Derek Whites. We'll see who's back to help him and to have more of a collaborative team effort. Because when you lose your leading scorer, you lose your leading rebounder, you're going to have to do it by committee. You cannot have Jaylen Brown trying to take it all on his shoes, all on his shoulders, and literally on the 741s and do it all by himself. I think he'll be fine. I think he will use this as motivation to work on his game, because he does still want to feel like he could be a top 10 player. He does feel like he can improve. When you don't feel like as a player you can improve, you just probably need to stop playing, because every player at his stage, at later stages in their careers, have added a little layer, a little nugget to their game to make them better, whether it be improved three-point shooting, improved free throw shooting from a different spot on the floor, using the glass more, with the bank shots, things like that, things that show that you're working on your craft. And I know Jaylen is not a guy who's a feverless worker. He's a guy who gets out there every summer, whether he goes to Spain, whether he works out with the NBA PA program overseas, whether he's in Egypt or he's always got a ball in the hoop with him, and he's going to work out and he's going to make himself better. And I have full confidence in that. But to expect Jaylen to be like, I'm going to average 30 and 10 boards and 8 assists, like, no. Don't have to do all that. Just take a step up. Just be a player better than you were last year. And I think he will do that.
All right, looking at.
Okay, hold on, Kwani.
Yeah, of course. Oh, he got a picture. He said, "I'm gonna just show y'all."
Gary's so proud of these shoes. I bet you got a fair closet.
I gotta. Hold up. I got a picture here.
He is so proud of these shoes.
I'm not proud of them. I remember what we used to wear. So hold up.
He said, "I gotta remember where I came from."
Yeah. Don't ever forget where you came from.
No, seriously.
Oh, I won't forget. But am I trying to go back? Nah, we're good.
See this? Can you see those?
Oh yeah, we can see it. All right. Wow.
The four stripe Adidas and the reverse swoosh Nikes.
The inverse Nike for me. Wow.
Yeah. Just imagine wearing that to school in the 80s. And what the kids might have said, some of the remarks they might have said.
They wouldn't say nothing because they got the same ones on.
It was always some kid with a rich uncle or some kid whose little big brother, or there was kids who might not have gotten their shoes, how I put this, through purchase. They might have.
Well, yeah, I know.
They might have gotten them some other way, right? So for kids this is childhood right here now. The reverse swoosh, and your mama would be like, ain't that what all the NBA players are wearing? I see that on TV. No, mama, you don't see that on TV. That's not Michael Jordan ain't wearing them. Mama, please don't buy me them shoes. So
not the ones.
They're not the ones. No, please, mama, don't buy me the reverse Nikes.
We're gonna make sure this is gonna be in the Gary Washburn biopic. We're gonna make sure.
Absolutely.
Sharai, your mom looked at them shoes and said, "Those are exactly what the pros wear." She was like, "No, mama."
Nah, she didn't say that. She just said, "Here."
Let's compare the pictures.
She just said, "Here."
I see all the NBA players wearing them, baby. I got you a good deal. Here you go.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm just saying. Your mom, you couldn't talk your mama out of that.
No, absolutely
not. No.
Once it's paid for, you put it on your closet or something.
It's done.
Yeah. And then if you didn't wear them, where they at?
Yep. Where's the shoes I bought you last week?
Mama, please don't make me wear them to school. Mama, please don't make me wear them to school.
Oh man. Anyway. All right. Let's talk about Jrue Holiday. There are reports that Dallas may be interested in a trade to acquire him. One, what do you two think of him being in Dallas? But two, where would and if is it possible that the Celtics would even benefit from a trade with them?
What you think about this, Gary? Talk about your boy Jrue.
Well, I think if you're going to move Jrue, and that's a possibility, you're going to have to take less salary back, in turn, because Dallas is looking for like a floor remember, Kyrie Irving is out with the ACL, so he might not be back till deep into
January,
the second half.
maybe? Yeah,
deep into the second half of next year. Now, if you're the Celtics, Drew makes 33 million next year. You could take back two guys in the final years of their deal, PJ Washington and Daniel Gafford. If I'm the Celtics, I seriously consider that deal because you're getting a rim protector in Gafford and you're getting younger with Washington. I'm not a huge Washington guy. I think he doesn't come through as much in the clutch, but you're not looking for him to be your A1 or or B1 option. You're looking for him to be a guy, right? So if that is something that they want to take back, so you're sending out, 33 million, you're taking back 28 million, or you want to take back the contract of Caleb Martin and take back less money. Let's say a Gafford and a Caleb Martin. Okay, but Caleb also has another year in his deal in 26-27, and then a player option in 27-28. So, you're gonna have to get used to Caleb Martin, but he also has another tradable contract. So if you're the Celtics and you get back two less expensive players, I don't think it's a terrible deal, especially a guys who are younger in Gafford and Washington, or even a Caleb Martin who can be like another defender, kind of a junior, low-budget Derek White. Because at this point, you're going to have to get under this cap, this second apron. And, as much as, I think Drew's contributions to the team has been great. He is 35, and, you're going to probably see a decline. So, so next year, the question is, I'm sure Drew wants to play for chips. I'm sure Drew would love to play for a guy like Jason Kidd. I'm sure Drew's a very popular guy around the league. And I think in a sense, he would be okay with playing for a chip or going to a situation to win. The Celtics are not going to send him to a situation where he's going to be losing, right? Like, I just think they're going to do best by him if they have to do that, if they want to do that. And quite honestly, to take back, let's say, a Caleb Martin and a PJ Washington or a Daniel Gafford, right? Because remember, you got Anthony Davis and you got Derek Lively. So is there room there? And then you're going to have Cooper Flagg. So somebody's going to have to go in that front court in Dallas. It's likely going to be PJ Washington, because if it's me, I'm thinking Cooper Flagg starts right away, right? I mean, Cooper Flagg is starting game one. Somebody going to the bench. So I think and if they are trying to get younger, and obviously now with Cooper Flagg, with Anthony Davis, they're a team, with Davis, Kyrie coming back, they're trying to win now. Klay Thompson, they're a team that the clock is ticking, especially after trading Luka for Nico Harrison. So I think that's a team to target and to look out for, who might be able to give you something back a little cheaper and a little younger.
Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense for both teams. I mean, as you pointed out, Gary, Dallas, they become a little bit more, I think, impactful early on in the season, knowing that they're not going to be as complete as they want to be until after we get past the All-Star break or around that time. So it makes sense from that perspective. But the one thing about the Celtics is that Brad has been really good about this, is not only bringing guys in who can play, but bringing guys who can come in and play the way that this organization wants their guys to play. That whole talk about culture, I think is very real, particularly when you look at a team like, let's say, the Phoenix Suns, where they seem to have a lot of questions about their culture. And even when you bring in three of the best players in the game, they can't seem to play collectively together well enough to do anything other than maybe get to the play-in game. And again, that's obviously they had their issues with injuries and things like that. But the bottom line is, even when they were healthy enough, they weren't very good. So if you are the Celtics, that has to be part of the thought process, not just getting guys in who can get you, financially speaking, where you want to be, but guys who can actually fit into what you want to do. And I think it does help that you got a championship. And it does help that if you're working with a partner that basically you beat that ass to get that championship, they look at you a little differently. It's just like, you know what? Yeah, they are kind of nice because they handed it to us. And the Celtics, they're going to have to reinvent themselves on the fly here. They're going to have to find ways to be a different kind of team than they were, this past couple of years when you had Tatum and you had Brown. I think they're going to need more guys who can get their own shot. They're going to need more guys who can do some things around the glass. They're going to have to lean on just second and third shot opportunities much more so than they have in the past, because not only will Tatum, be out for most, if not all of next season, but you're probably going to lose, Luke Cornett. And that Luke became a much more valuable piece to this team the further we got into the season. And so I thought I'd never hear myself say this, but they may have trouble replacing Luke Cornett. And I think the couple of guys that Gary mentioned earlier are very adequate, if not I'd say more than adequate, to fill that void. So that's, I think, the thinking if you're Brad Stevens, in large part, is just figuring out ways that you can get past this speed bump for most of next season and position yourself to where, as you get closer towards the end of the season and hopefully go into the playoffs, you got a team that's dramatically different and better at that point than they were at the start of the season. That's, I think, if you're the Celtics, that's the blueprint to really stay in the race to be one of the top tier teams in the Eastern Conference.
Mm-hmm. And you both mentioned various factors: his age, Drew's age, wanting to win, the reality of the Celtics needing to get into their second apron. But how realistic is it for Drew to be on the move as well?
Oh, well, because of his contract, because of the Celtics' desire to get under that second apron, it's very likely that Drew will be playing for someone else next season. But, the Celtics, for the most part, they've done right by the guys that they've traded. I mean, think about Marcus Smart when they moved him. Marcus Smart is a gritty, grimy, defensive-minded player, and he goes to literally the epicenter of gritty, grimy. Hell,
he's the leader of gritty, grimy.
That's literally the moniker of the team. Yeah. And so that was a great situation for him. And although, some other guys, not so great situations, I think there is an effort to send guys in situations where they can be successful, be impactful, and just kind of carve out a new, opportunity for them. Look at Aaron Nesmith. I mean, you knew that he was going to get a chance to play in Indiana when they traded him there, and I don't think anyone thought he would play as much or as well as he has in these last 2-3 years. And so I think the same attitude, the same approach will be taken, with Drew Holiday, that they will find a place that makes a lot of sense for where he's at in terms of his career and where those organizations are in terms of what they're needing from a new addition. So it's going to work out. I mean, and again, Drew is such a pro's pro that even if it's a crappy team, even if he winds up somewhere like San Antonio, which doesn't necessarily look like a title contender, but there are things that he can do to help that team get to the playoffs, or maybe even, get to the postseason and put the fear in teams, because they have a very good player and some pretty good pieces around him. So Drew's going to wind up in a good situation. I don't think he's going to wind up in one of the, the crappy cities and teams in the NBA. I just don't think the Celtics are going to go that route.
You mentioned a really good point. I was thinking about this last week, and I want to see what the two of you think about this. So obviously Marcus Smart being traded is still a sore subject for a lot of Celtics fans, just in the way that it went down. And of course, the reality is it's NBA, it's a business decision. But that being said, knowing Brad Stevens, the person, now the GM, do you two think that moving forward, he'll approach trades differently?
Good question, Gary. What do you think?
Like maybe telling the players in advance, or...
you're muted.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not.
No? Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying he won't be. I think he's as nice as he can possibly. I mean, I think he puts players in situations like Marcus, like Sherrod said, he sent him to Memphis. Memphis was contending.
Yeah.
The problem with Memphis, what happened to Marcus in Memphis, was a couple of things. One, he got hurt. Two, the emergence of Scottie Pippen Jr., and a guy named Vince Williams, who became cheaper and basically better replacements and options than Smart. And so he ended up going from, he's going to start in the backcourt with Ja, to he got hurt, to, okay, he's going to be the key guy coming off the bench, to, okay, he's not getting that many minutes, to he's on the trade block. So it happened really fast for Marcus. Did sending Brogdon and Robert Williams to Portland, it is what it is. I mean, sometimes you got to make hard trades. Sometimes you got to send, Brogdon didn't seem like he was fit to be a long-term Celtic. Like Malcolm wanted a different role. He was a starter most of his career before he got to Boston, and he becomes a sixth man of the year. Then I think there was some back and forth about that elbow injury. And remember, he was going to be the one sent to the Clippers to get Porzingis in a three-way deal if that elbow injury had been, but the Clippers were concerned about that, so they pulled out, and then they had to trade Marcus. So, and then Robert Williams has never been the same since he left Boston. He's been 2 years in Portland, and he's played maybe 50 games. He's constantly been hurt, knee procedures, all that, and we all love the Time Lord and all love what he was able to do when he was on the floor. But I don't think Brad is gonna, be like a softie here when it comes to moving. And I also think that Drew Holiday is been in the game 16 years. He's been traded several times. He knows how this whole thing goes. So he knows that, hey, I'm signing this extension a couple years ago, and I'm probably not going to play the extension out all in Boston. As long as he's getting rewarded, which he is, I don't think some of these guys can complain. Drew's going to be very handsomely paid deep into his 30s. So I think he understands that. And by the way, Robert Williams has played 26 games over 2 years with Portland. It has not worked out.
How many games?
26.
Damn.
He played 20 last year and 6 in his first. He has played 26 games.
Wow, that's
in 2 years with the Portland Trailblazers. So I don't think Brad's still going to do what he can to improve the team.
Yeah.
What he's not going to do is he's not going to put guys in bad situations where they are not going to be able to win or not going to be able to flourish just for the sake. I think he'll understand that, and he'll send Drew somewhere after a good long conversation to where he could try to win another championship.
For sure. All right, before we move on, because I do want to talk about the current state of the playoffs before we close out, I want to remind you all once again to subscribe to this podcast, like it, leave a review. I know I'm a broken record at this point, but that's how we keep the lights on here. And for those of you that are watching the show on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and also subscribe to the Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find, of course, our show and other great Celtics content all year long. Also, make sure you're turning on those notifications so that you know the moment we drop a new video or, of course, another Celtics-related podcast or video is posted. Okay, let's talk about the state of the playoffs. OKC 1 win away from advancing to NBA Finals. Pick and roll. Good OKC or bad Ant-Man? Which one is more to blame for the series being 3-1 right now in favor of the Thunder?
Bad Ant-Man.
Yeah.
Look, he got to be better than this. Listen, when you have the kind of bravado that he exudes on a night in basis, you can't be having games where you get 16 points and take 13 shots. That should be your numbers after the first quarter, not the whole game. He has to be better.
Yeah.
It's that simple. I mean, and I get it that Shea's the MVP and Shea is playing like an MVP, but to me, the MVP has been cats like Caruso, cats like Dort, the cats that have made Ant-Man look like an ant, man. That should never be happening. It shouldn't be happening. He's one of the biggest, baddest balls in the game, and he has been reduced to a non-factor more times than not. That can't happen if Minnesota is going to be that team. And that can't happen if Ant is going to be the man, which he feels he is, and many want to crown him that, but he hasn't played like it in this series.
Yo, your face is hilarious. Oh man.
What you guys say, Mr. Kenny NBA? What you got, Kenny NBA?
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
That was interesting. okay.
It's the Ant-Man pun. That's
That was just
for the
just-
record.
that was
Come on,
horrible.
Ant-Man.
That was horrible. I'm gonna say it's good Thunder. They put a defensive emphasis on Ant-Man to stop him and to limit his shot attempts. 69 shots in the 4 games. He's shooting 31% from 3. He's averaging 24 and 8 in the series with 5 assists, but it just doesn't seem as impactful because he's just not getting the shots up. And he hasn't had many signature moments to where it's the ball's in his hands and it's like, okay, I'm scoring 15 in the last 6 minutes to take us to victory. The one victory they had, it was a blowout. It wasn't a game after the first quarter. So I got to give it to the Thunder to not. You're not going to stop him because he's averaging 24 and 8 and 5 assists, but you make him less impactful, and he's not shot the ball well from 3. He's averaging 8 3-point attempts a game, and he's 10 for 32, so he's shooting 31%, as I said, only 69% from the line. He's missed 8 free throws in the series. That's not good. So it's just, to me, it's good defense because it's not like he's been terrible. If you look at those numbers, almost 50% shooting, 25 points, almost 25 points, 8 boards, you're not going to be like, oh, that was terrible. It's just he hasn't had those impactful moments, stepping up and hitting big shots in the big moments like SGA has. SGA, as I said to Sherrod on our pod, a couple days ago, you're going to see what Oklahoma City's made of with this game because now you don't want it to go back 2-2 to Oklahoma and suddenly you're in a competitive series and it's up to you to eke out a best of 3. Now they're going home and they're 1 win away from the NBA Finals. And SGA stepped up with 40 points. And so to me, I think it's just a good Thunder team. I mean, this Thunder team, it's just been put together with the draft. You look at, Shea trade with the Clippers. Jalen Williams was a first-round pick, but not a high first-round pick. I think he was like 20-something, if I'm not mistaken. And he has turned out to be an all-star player. What was it? 12th overall. My bad, 12th overall. So he was a lottery pick, but not a high lottery pick. And then Chet Holmgren, and you get Alex Caruso through a trade. You get Hartenstein. Dort is a guy who they basically cultivated. He was a one and done at Arizona State, a dude with an NBA frame, and they've turned him into a top defender. Like, just you look at the roster, and it's just like hit after hit after hit on the draft and on free agency. And they have finally come together. And, Shea is the man. Shea, I mean, you can say all you want about his free throw baiting and all that, but that dude gets it done. And maybe this is a lesson. You know how many 3-pointers he's hit in this series? 5. And he's still averaging 31 points a game, right? So you don't need to necessarily always knock down the 3. He's taken 18 threes in 4 games. He is not a 3-point specialist. We all know he gets to that mid-range and he gets the shot up or he gets to the free throw line. So credit to Oklahoma City. It's good Oklahoma City. No more bad puns with Anthony Edwards, please.
Come on, you got to be better, Ant-Man.
Oh, my goodness. All right, let's look at the Eastern Conference. So
Yeah,
for the record, last week, after we ended the episode, Sherrod remembered both of my brothers graduated college. Congrats. Love you guys.
Yes. Shout out to your moms and your pops.
Nah, 3 is crazy.
Exactly. Especially with you being the first one. Like, damn.
the standard.
Man.
The standard.
We obviously get elevated. Okay.
But I say that mostly too because I ended up going home a little bit early. We had a family wedding, and the person that got married is a Knicks fan. All of my family in New York, we're in New York and New Jersey, so all the Knicks fans have been antagonizing me over the last few days until we got to this point where they finally were able to even notch one because the Knicks.
They got real quiet. They
were real quiet. They're talking about, oh, you're a Celtics fan, but which I had to explain. I'm not a Celtics fan. I live in Boston, covered the Celtics. They don't understand that. But all that to say, New York has been looking very iffy lately. Right now, they're trailing 2-1. We're recording on Tuesday, so they play tonight. at 8 p.m. So by the time you're listening, we'll know whether or not they were able to continue that streak. But what do you two make of New York? What's going on? Let's do pick and roll, actually. Good Pacers or bad Brunson, New York? Which is more to blame for the series being the way it is right now? Because this has been entertaining to watch, to say the least.
Good Pacers. I mean, the Pacers are just a better team.
They're phenomenal.
They play with great pace. They've got great coaching.
Mhm.
They
play with great pace. Is that what you said? You can't stop the blood.
See, Gary, it ain't my fault. Don't blame me.
You can't help yourself.
Gary, don't even blame me.
That's you. That's your fault, Sherrod.
It's true. But that's one of their strengths.
Oh, you're right.
The pace
That's
of
why they're
play.
called the Pacers. Oh my God.
You know what? You know what?
Sherrod,
I'm not ready to just take Gary off the stage right now.
Don't do that.
But listen, the bottom line is that the Pacers are playing the way that they are able to be successful, and there's nothing the Knicks can do about it. And it feeds into the narrative that New York has a great core of 6-7 guys, but when you run them ragged the way the Pacers are, it's probably going to impact them down the stretch. And I don't think it's a coincidence that theory seems to have played out in games 1 and 2. And to be honest, I mean, for those of us who watched game 3, Indiana gave that thing away. Indiana, it almost looked as though Indiana got to the point where they were looking fat and happy out there. We've done enough. The Knicks are just going to roll over. And then all of a sudden, Karl Anthony Towns becomes like the best player walking the face of the earth, hitting threes, taking Cass off the dribble, dunking on Cass Neimark, rest in peace. That was a bad dunk that you caught. He put you in a body bag real badly. But Karl Anthony Towns, he exploded and stepped up. But when you look at the body of work in this series, I just don't see the Knicks winning this thing. They might get one more win, maybe, but I don't think they will. I think Indiana's going to win, game 4, and I think they're going to win game 5 and call it a day and be on to the NBA Finals. They've got all the things that make them an extremely difficult team. And frankly, them and OKC, I think, is a much more, in terms of basketball aesthetics, a more interesting matchup than any of the other possible matchups, because both of those teams, they rely more on their collective sums to be great than any one or two individual talents. Because as great as Shea Alexander, SGA is, they got like 7-8 other cats that can ball. I mean, Jay Will can ball. Caruso can lock kids up defensively. Jay Will gets buckets. I mean, Isaiah Hartenstein, you start going down the line, they're like 8 players deep, night in, night out. And Indiana isn't all that different. So I'm looking forward to seeing that NBA Finals. But before we get to that point, Indiana has to take care of their business. And I think they'll take another step towards doing that in game 4.
Yeah.
Talk about that pace of play, Gary, or the Pacers.
How?
Anyway, I think that
or Kenny NBA speakers.
The Pacers are just a better team at this point. But what they can't do is they can't get comfortable. And they got comfortable in game 3. Yeah. They're up 55-35. If that sounds, unfortunately for me, the Celtic fans, a 20-point lead against the Knicks. And they gave it up. So the Celtics aren't the only ones. The Knicks gave up a 14-point lead. I think it was 17 points in game 1 with 17 points with 6 minutes left, and 14 points with 2:45, and they gave that up. So the Celtics aren't the only ones that give up big leads, but the Pacers, like you said, they squandered that lead. They didn't know how to defend Karl Anthony Towns, and all that lot of work was done with Jalen Brunson on the bench. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in game 4. But I expect a competitive series. I think it goes to 6. I don't know if the Knicks just give it up. Even if they lose in game 4, give it up in game 5. I think that it goes to 6, but I think Indiana prevails, and we're going to have an Indiana-Oklahoma City NBA Finals. But I think Indiana's they're a team they're a lot like Oklahoma City, right? They're built with a bunch of guys who are young, hungry, and they play together well. And that's hard to find in this league. You look at how they got their superstars. Oklahoma got it through trade, right? You hope, okay, we have a star player in Paul George. He wants to go to LA. Give us SGA. And obviously, if the Clippers had known how that would have worked out, they probably don't make the deal. Indiana gets their superstar, swapping stars, Sabonis going to Sacramento. They take Tyrese Halliburton from the Kings. You're our guy. They get Pascal Siakam in the trade from Toronto. They sign Obi Toppin. They've drafted Miles Turner. Nembhard's a second round pick who just came out of nowhere. Very talented player. They traded for Nesmith to get, this is how you build in these smaller markets. And everybody wants parity until it gets to the finals and everybody's going, this is boring, Oklahoma City and Indiana. We're like, I don't want to hear no complaints. When y'all want parity and y'all don't want the same big city teams every year, this is the finals you're going to get. And it's going to be a very entertaining finals if it ends up Oklahoma City, Indiana. But it's not going to be, there's going to be a lot of who is that, who he played for. It's going to be a lot of casual fans who are like, I don't recognize these guys. What team is this? Mm-hmm. So where's Indiana again? Like who they play? Who?
Oh my gosh!
It's going to be a lot. When Oklahoma get a team? Believe me, there's going to be people who ask that. I didn't know they had a team in Oklahoma. But you got to give credit to the Pacers for building that team, and I know Sherrod was going to touch on the coaching. His close friend, Rick Carlisle,
that's my dude,
one of the league's most outstanding coaches, has been for a long time, led the Mavericks to the championship, and he's getting his just due again by leading another team probably to the finals. So, but I think it's been good Pacers, but the Pacers got to finish this off. You got to take Game 4 seriously. And then you got to go back to the Garden. That's going to be a madhouse. And just take their lunch money and get on to the finals.
Every team Rick Carlisle as coach has gotten either to the conference finals or NBA finals. I'm just saying. Just saying.
You're just saying.
A little mic drop. Any final words as we continue to await what the NBA finals will look like?
I got to get going soon because my Kenny NBA order should be popping in a second.
He really went to go order that food. No, he went to order food.
Get my Kenny MBAs. Nah, I got to get my Kenny MBAs.
Oh, that's what it is. The delivery is outside.
I might get me some of these. I might try to find some of these reverse swoosh Nikes.
We should get matching sneakers, guys.
Yeah, we should get the Kenny MBAs. We're going to call Kenny. We're going to call
Kenny's. Magic bubble gum.
Sherrod got Kenny's phone number.
My bestest friend named Kenny.
Hey Kenny, you got a couple of pairs for us. Yeah, we're gonna call Kenny up.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, before we get out of here, for those of you listening to the show, I'm gonna ask you one more time: subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, share it with a friend that you think will be interested. They don't have to just be a Celtics fan; they could just be an NBA fan overall. And for those of you who are watching on CLNS, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe to the CLNS Media and Celtics All Access YouTube channel, where you can find our episodes and all of the other great Celtics content that lives there. And while you're there, make sure you're showing love to our sponsors as well. And one more thing, make sure you're turning on the notifications so that you know when a new video drops. For Sherrod Blakely and Gary Washburn, I'm Kwani Lunis, and this is the Big Three NBA Podcast.
We need to get Kenny NBA in the building.
Jalen from the shoes.
Exactly.